Hello, check. Well, we'll wait a few moments until everyone comes in from outside. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the last session of the day, what we call the panel discussion. To lead us through this panel discussion, we will have Captain Yashavarman Sharma to do the honors. And I have the most pleasurable job of introducing Captain Sharma. Better known as Yankee, most of us know him as Yankee, and most of us know everything about him, so I've cut down these 6 pages into 1 page, because everyone knows him. But still, it is my duty to mention a few things. He is currently the director of True North Competency Management. It's a consultancy service offering education and training solutions, largely in the maritime industry. Going back to, I think I'll cancel the expression donkey's ears and call it elephant's ears, because Yankee goes back to more than 50 years in the maritime industry, 52 to be precise, came to sea in 1971. He was always a shining star, President's Gold Medalist for the batch 1971-73, and then spent 25 years at sea, started with Scindia Steam Navigation and finally with Barber Ship Management. In 1998, he came ashore and set up I'm not sure if it was 1998 he came ashore, but in 1998 he set up the International Maritime Training Center, IMTC, for Wilhelmsen, and he headed that institute for 12 years. His special focus on management development training is well known. In fact, he even came up here earlier today to mention further management training that is being planned by the CMMI. His close association with Indian Institutes of Management, Ahmedabad and Bangalore is well known. Ladies and gentlemen, he has also been on the Gujarat Maritime University at Gandhinagar for their MBA programs on shipping and logistics. So with that, let me invite Captain Sharma to the dais.
Thank you, Tesselin, and thank you, all the audience. Thank you for reading out only the good parts of my life history. Glad to be here. End of the day, an interesting day it has been so far. And like I promised, we want to make it even more interesting. And we have the advantage of time now that half an hour slot devoted to, some other activity has been, erased, and we take advantage of that. But I see a lot of white backs in front of me, and I would invite those people who are most important to me and to this audience, who are sitting in the back without the jackets, okay? Move ahead, occupy the front seats, they are for you. Can you do that? Oh, great. You know, Newton's first law of inertia has been proven wrong. A body at rest will remain at rest. Yeah, well, No, I didn't come with a stick, you know. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Much appreciated. It also gives, come a little bit more on this side, please, 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 please. You know, I mean, we're getting a starboard list with too many guys here. So it also gives a little more encouragement to the panelists who have taken their precious time to be with us today and share with us their thoughts, their experience, their expertise, and we should honor that, you know. And for those people who have left the seminar, it is their loss that they are not here right now. And for those who are here, thank you very much again. And if you are thinking of slinking out, the doors are locked. Okay, till 5:30. No, just joking. So that said, and now it is my pleasant duty to invite the panelists who are going to be discussing this subject threadbare. I start with Captain Kirsi Debu, close friend, and I'm supposed to again read out all the, you know, biodata and so on, but I don't think we need to. You know, there used to be a Director General of Shipping in the past, Mr. Agniotri, and whenever he was in a position as chairman or whatever, he would start with, you know, inviting his panelists with, so-and-so needs no introduction. And then he would start introducing, you know, for 2 pages. So I'm going to say the same thing. So-and-so needs no introduction, but I'm not going to now read 2 pages. I'll just say, Captain Kirsi Debu, while you step up, everyone knows you as one and the same with Anglo-Eastern Maritime Training. It's no difference between we say Anglo-Eastern Maritime Training or you say Kirsi Debu, one and the same. Am I right, folks? Yeah. A man who has been in the training arena since 1995, older than I think most of us here. What more do you need, right? And I need not go back to all the other stuff which you're doing. It's fantastic that you are here with us today. I call upon Captain M.P. Basin, who you've already seen on this mic earlier today, but now he changes hats. Yeah, we can still call him Secretary General of CMMI, but more, you know, in the line that I would like him to be here is a sort of an owner's representative. So, you know, MSC Shipping, we all know he's heading the crewing in the manning section here in India and many other places as well you're involved. I would like to see you here as an owner rep in, you know, these discussions that will follow. Our third panelist is Captain Viraf Chisgar, please. He is currently the General Manager of Fleet Management Training Institute, and he's not here because fleet management is a what sponsor, gold sponsor, or, you know, not for that. But for his own excellent knowledge on particularly digital systems and more specifically EGDIS, the acknowledged expert in our industry on EGDIS. Viraf, thank you for being here. Yeah. We have a surprise inclusion. Gentleman sitting very casually on the first desk here. May I invite you, Captain Panda, to take the 4th chair, please. And for those of you, if you don't know who Captain Panda is, then, you know, I have to ask you, which planet have you been coming from? Because, you know, one of the doyens of the industry and the ex-nautical advisor. And we have invited him here specifically because of his involvement in the administration, and we hope to hear from him in a non-defensive way, you know, how administrations can be involved in the business of upskilling and so on. Thank you, Captain Kanda, for accepting this at very short notice. We would value your presence over here. You don't need a chair for me. It's okay. Yeah. Introductions done. Satisfactory? Okay, all right. Then I'm an academic, and you know what academics do. They start giving lectures. So I'm going to start with a mini lecture, 5 minutes, if you can tolerate, you know. Because the subject we have discussed since the morning, we have been thrown into the deep well of, you know, upskilling, maritime sector in the world of digitalization. Big word. Is there any different from the word digitization? Some we may be even confused about that. So I would like to start at the absolute primary level to explain what is digitization and what's digitalization and how it brings us to the industry and so on. Digitization is nothing but putting analog data into digital form, the zeros and ones. That is digitization. You take a chart, paper chart, convert it to an electronic chart, that is digitization. And then what is digitalization? If I have to make a definition, let me refer to my notes, please. Transforming processes using digital technology and creating new opportunities. One-line definition. Transforming processes. In the case of a chart, what is it that we are transforming when we go from digitization to digitalization? We take EGDIS. What are we transforming? We are transforming the process of navigation. Are we not? So then how digitalization enters the picture is transformation of that particular process. And that's one of the processes, one of the many, many processes that are involved in maritime sector, transportation of goods, passengers, and so on. So now we know what is digitalization. That's fine. But then we move ahead and we see how it applies to organizations, to companies, to enterprises. So what is a digital enterprise? Let me define that for you. An organization that completely integrates digital tools and technology into all aspects of its operations in order to increase productivity, create a better customer experience, and improve efficiency and effectiveness of the business processes. Like I said, navigation is only one of the business processes. There are so many others. And when we get into a digitalized enterprise, then we are looking at all these processes and how bring them into the digital format. That's the digitalized enterprise. And then, of course, if we are going to be thinking of digitalizing our enterprises, our companies in shipping, then we would like to figure out what would be the characteristics of a digitalized company, a digitalized enterprise. Characteristics are no different from what they are today even, but the customer focus, internal as well as external, that remains. But now decisions are getting more data-driven. They are based on data and analytics rather than just gut feeling or experience or intuition. There's data to deal with. Lean and agile, which means to be able to move quickly, more efficiently. Organizations need to now focus on that aspect. To be innovative, to be able to improve, to be able to grow, and to be collaborative. So to work closely with partners, to work closely with stakeholders. All that is not happening if you are stuck away in some ivory tower office. You have to get into the social media, you got to leverage all the digital way of communicating and so on. And resilient, able to adapt and survive in an ever-changing environment. And today, environment is changing in leaps and bounds. As we see, 10 years back, the type of phones you had in your pocket were probably what we call today as relics of, what is it they call the phones? No, the phones that we had, dialing buttons, they're analog, feature phones, sorry, that's the word, feature phones. And now we have, smart screens, smartphones, and so on. In 10 years, it's gone like that. Who would have thought? So that's a digital enterprise. And what does it take for organizations to become digital? What should be their strategy? And if we are talking digital in maritime, then maybe we should also think of what are the strategies involved in transforming an organization from a regular analog type of organization into a digital organization. The digital transformation, what does it involve? And it involves a few points to align businesses with IT teams. Now we bring the aspect of IT in. And we have a strong IT team. Not like 10 years back, we thought, Ajay, get hold of some IT guy to look after the network in the office or whatever. So IT guys were just someone you picked off from the market who knew a little bit about DOS and networking and C++. I think we have to have a fresh look what an IT guy is today, and we'll talk about that more later as we go. To develop agile mindsets, I think there was mention of mindsets earlier today, changing of mindsets. So to develop agile mindsets, that's what one should be of the steps to digital transformation and managing change. So obviously everybody knows, and if you introduce something new, something different, there's going to be that Newton's law, right? Resistance of change. And it's no surprise that 70% of change efforts actually fail. At least they don't give the type of results that are expected. So a lot of effort has to go into managing that change, as we will see again in our discussions. And to access our current status, what is it that we are doing now, how we are going to reach that position where we can truly say we are a digital organization now. So we have to examine ourselves where we stand today, what are our processes today, and how they are going to be transformed. Hire tech-driven talent. So I'm going to come to hiring and recruitment as part of our discussions. What does it mean to hire tech-driven talent? And the digitalization, to digitalize information and to automate certain internal processes. And we've been talking about automation all morning, but at least within a company, there would be processes which are rife for automation, which will take away possibilities of human error and so on. And therefore, of course, they will depend on digitized data to work with. So, that's the process. Plan IT systems adoption, selection of which are the IT systems that we will use. Plenty of them emerging in the market every day. New businesses, one standing outside Vedam. You can have a look at them, what they're doing. Lots of systems are in process, but what suits your organization, your organizational strategy, your work, that's an important selection to make. And the last point, it comes 3 times. Train, train, and train. 3 times is being repeated. Train people, train people, train people. Right? So this is what is involved in transforming any organization into a digital organization. With these 5 minutes, or maybe a little bit more, I stop my lecture. And I hope I have set a background through which we can examine in the maritime industry the various organizations, the various companies, how they are moving into the digitalization age, within the maritime sector. What are the challenges and all of that? Many of which we have already heard before, being discussed in the morning and the afternoon. But now I take it upon the panel, as well as you as the audience. Feel free to participate, to contribute. You're most welcome, but I will control you. If you start on a long dialogue, I'm going to stop you. Right? But do throw your points at us when you feel it's appropriate. Ready to go, sir? Right? Okay. Yeah. Oh, before going, just going ahead, that is to say, I thought it might be useful to reflect upon 2 quotations I'd like to bring to you. The first about digitalization and digitalized companies. First quotation is from George Westerman of MIT. He says, when digital transformation is done right, it's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. But when done wrong, all you have is a really fast caterpillar. Okay? So it means, okay, you may do things faster, better, but it hasn't really done anything in terms of change and improvement in that way. And the second quote is from John Hagel of Deloitte. And he says, to go digital is a way to do more of the same, just more efficiently, quickly, cost-effectively. But there is not a lot of evidence of fundamentally stepping back and rethinking at a basic level as to what business are we really in. So don't equate digitalization to just making things digital and it'll become faster. And that's not what the idea is. The idea is to create change, to transform, and use that digital technology to leverage your processes, invent new ones, and see where that takes us. Okay, I've said my bit. So let's get the ball rolling. I'll start with Captain Basin as a representative of a ship-owning company, and nothing to do with MSC. It's your general sense of, from a shipowner's angle. All this talk we just had about transformation of a company into a digital company, and having a strategy for that. Do you see that playing out in any of the shipping companies?
Thank you, sir. Something you have asked me as a owner representative, something concerning with commercial. Can I have a volume on this? Is it okay?
One of 4 mics has to be a dud in any seminar, so it's all right.
Sir, I did make some notes. Thanks for giving me the 4 advice that what are you going to ask me. I was hoping it was concerning Manning, but it was not. Still, I have 3 or 4 lines concerning with Manning I would like to speak. Future seafarers will experience their vessels becoming more digitalized, thus more reliant on computerized technology. This means that keeping crew trained and ready to monitor the machine will become no less important than it is today. The difference is, but there's a difference. The difference is that their skills will need to broaden to encompass a degree of digitalization so that working on computer system with high quality and being able to troubleshoot operational issue related to cyber physical domain from far away from the ship will become a part of their role. So these are a few lines that I think the future seafarers will be going through. Somebody was talking today about the cyber security, piracy. So the concept of emergency response management team training for the industry is quite old. But the cyber needs to be included for a scenario like grounding, engine failure, maybe piracy to a certain limit. There may not be a crew, but piracy could take over the ship. So these are the few matters which I hope the people who are bringing this autonomous or mass or whatever you call, bring this into the fore. Now I go to the question you asked, sir. And first of all, I would like to say, this is the India movement, truly India movement. About 10 or 11 years before, there was a term used, information 4.0. The people who are digitalized board, they know this. It came out from German. You know what we have today in India? Everybody has heard of that word, and that is known as Gati Shakti. I urge each and every one of you to please read about it. What people spoke 10, 11 years before, information 4.0, is actually in a much bigger way today in India known as Gati Shakti. Now, digitalization in commercial what? As a owner? Sir, there's a long way to go for all process of export and import to be digitalized. There's a lot of room for that. It is already being done, as I mentioned, through Logistics Department of India and Gati Shakti. The shipping includes departments like customs, logistic chains, depots, product verification and surveys. For example, container surveys, intermodal, clearances. Everything needs to come to a digitalized mode. It is still not there. It is in very small part. It also gives you a look at the ease of doing business. And it will involve data for document clearance, loan, due diligence, whether it will be a bill of lading or it will be a cash on purchase, various things. Now, where does it lead to for a owner? How do a owner benefits? We have to remember one thing, if the owner benefits, it will also go down to a consumer. It's a very simple game. How does it lead to benefit? There is something I would like to talk more on India. You know, out of 100% export-import, 55 to 60% export-import is by MSMEs, small traders. MSE means micro, small, medium industries, enterprises. They are the main people. The big companies, they are able to afford digitalization. They are able to do. And I will talk a bit about MSE, what MSE has done. But the government through Gati Shakti is supporting these small traders, which has nearly 60% of export-import. And how will it benefit us? Number one, it will reduce the human interface. It will restrict corruption too, when everything is on electronic form or on digital platform. It will automatically reduce the cost. You must have heard a lot of people paying a lot of attention to inland waterways. You know, the basic crunch 2-3 years back was the draft. Now when the draft problem is being solved to the specific contract, the problem is the infrastructure. The vessels which are able to save millions of rupees in intermodal or transport system by inland waterways is getting a problem. There is no maintenance facility. There is no repair facility. There is no proper places in the inland waterways. And that, the digitalization through a vendor system, so in the morning Lars was talking about the vendor thing, that can reduce. So that is just to give you a layout how the commercial things are working. Now, sir, MSC.
Sure.
Now, MSC, people say, okay, we are in mining. Then we are in commercial. We have container offices all around India, 40 of them. Mining offices, 7 of them. But sir, we have something known as MSC technology. All around India, MSC technology employs more than 2,000 people. What are they doing? They are supporting through artificial intelligence, through research, day in, day out, 24/7 those offices are open. At about 6 locations, Chennai, Pune, Delhi, Hyderabad, 3 more. And they are doing this only, sir, digitalization. We have something known as Wave Digital E-Bill of Lading. We have heard digital bill of lading. It has saved money to many people, many people. How? End-to-end digital BL backed on blockchain technology. Already approved by PNI Club. Hari is here, he understands this. Much faster than the paper bill of lading. Eliminate the risk of losing paper bill of lading, reduces fraud. Reduces direct cost towards paper-based transaction. Reduces indirect cost, faster realization of payment. The ships are able to move in and out much faster. For MSC, I can say, we have issued nearly 55,000 e-bill of lading globally and 25,000 from India alone. That's the strength of India. Next, we were hearing today smart ships. Sir, we also have smart containers and smart trucks. We also have smart rails. There is a RFID chip put on each container or each truck or each train. So an owner or a manufacturer or a receiver can monitor how is his cargo moving from A to B. Where is it now? Whether it's getting any jerk or not. Such a minute things are being noticed. Hazardous cargo, what is the status? So these things are known as smart containers, which are also being worked with MSC. Next is ODEX, import cycle transaction, which I mentioned in the way of Gati Shakti. It allows customers to operate entire import, payment and delivery order cycle electronically. And that is the few of the projects that MSc is doing. I rest here, sir. We go along as the session goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Captain Basin. Very interesting to know specifically what MSc is doing. And of course, you mentioned Gati Shakti. I can't help mentioning that there's a university that was created recently in Baroda under the Indian Railways. The name of that university was National Railways Transportation Institute. And why I know it, because I'm a guest faculty there. It was created perhaps with a little bit of push from the center, and we know who's at the center behind all of that. I won't take any names. That university has been renamed last year to GSV University. Can you understand? Can we say what is GSV? Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. You know? So the university was created to develop manpower for the transportation sector, not just railways. And that's how I got involved in it, because I'm talking about maritime as well as airline transport over there. But yeah, so, you know, Gati Shakti is heavily dependent on digitalization. But what you talked about, MSc and many other examples of that, is mainly to do with transportation of finished goods, manufactured goods, containerization. Can I hear somebody from the audience who is involved in a company that is doing bulk, wet bulk or dry bulk transportation, you know? Yeah, if they have any experience of digitalization strategies, you know, transformation, they could give us an example. Anybody? Okay, if not in transportation sector, then in the service sector, you know, any of the service organizations in the maritime sector. Apart from training, of course. Logistics, anyone? No. I think we heard from Mr. Srinivas from the IRS side, am I right? What about, Hari, in your, you know, insurance? Is there some digitalization taking place within the organizations? Our process is changing? Everything. Yeah, great, great.
Sorry, yes, everything is being transformed. In fact, we are doing this digital transformation progress where we're getting online portals, etc., for people to self-serve, and a lot of other things, including you know, putting policies together, putting clauses together, risk assessments. It's all being digitized now to kind of reduce the onerous work.
Another important stakeholder in the industry, as we know, is, of course, the regulators. May I ask Captain Panda if he has some insights into digitalization at the administration levels?
Thank you, Captain Sharma. Good evening, everyone, especially to the ladies. Having worked in the administration for well over 25 years, I don't know whether you will call it digitalization or digitization. First, we started digitization. If you recall, way back when we changed from 1978 to 1995 STCW certificate, you all got a Panama kind of certificate. There, we picked up the data and then we kept it on a folio. Today, what you see is that COC checker. So that was a small form of digitization to digitalization and facilitation. As far as Government of India is concerned, I recall the process of digitization had already started. Yes, Government of India generally works on an analog process till date, if I may say. But the process of digitalization is on. Quite a lot of facilities that you can do, not only in training, even on ship registration. I recall when I was the registrar of ship at Calcutta, one of the shipping company didn't want to register the ship in India, especially in Calcutta, because they said that it takes 3 to 4 days. Well, we changed the whole process there in Calcutta and got into a partial form of digitization and issued him a certificate online. I'm talking about way back 15 years. So we are very adaptable people. The famous word jugaad is everywhere with Indians. I mean, it's a rarity that even a thelawala or a vendor will ask you for digital payment. So, though we may criticize the government, but the process of digitalization has started. There may be problems, there may be lacunas, because it has its own inherent process, which cannot be bypassed. But in my 25 years with the department and thereafter following the same for the last 6 years and being chief examiner of master and mates for 4-5 years, I think we have seen the change. We have seen the boys filling up their forms, getting their results. That is what. It's a process of digitization to start with, and digitalization followed up there. It's in a very small, formative way. But I'm sure with the change of times and as we go along with the discussion, it will be my pleasure to give you the steps taken in other aspects of shipping, not only in training. We have come a long way on other issues as well. So I'll say just we go along with the discussion and then we'll take up these issues. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, sir. Interesting. Thank you. Indeed, what you mentioned, digitalization of payment systems. Now you don't have to step out and look for an auto to go somewhere. And before that, you should look at your purse and see if you have $20 change or, chiller. As long as you have your phone with you, you are okay. Auto drivers have a little QR code stuck in the back of their seat, and you can just, 23, 25, 27, whatever it is. Such a big load off the mind, But more seriously, companies or organizations, to be, should I say, to be a digital enterprise or digital company, they have to have a successful online presence, and they use the internet effectively to achieve their goals. So that's something we cannot neglect now. You cannot be digitalized within your own organization or within a network which is limited to certain parts of the sector. You have to go online, worldwide. And the internet is the way. And therefore, planning to adopt digital technology to improve business performance should be the goal. We started with this digitalization and looking at organizations within the maritime sector, be it administration, be it commercial organization, to set the background for what we really want to discuss here in this seminar, and that is upskilling. So if we are established now, if we all agree that yes, this digitalization is taking place in the maritime sector, then we can talk of the skilling or upskilling or even downskilling as we will see as we go ahead. Okay? So now I bring in Captain Debu with a question. When we say upskilling, are we implying that there is only the existing workforce in the maritime sector which would need to be upskilled to meet the demands of a digitalized economy or digitalized sector? Are we talking of only existing workforce?
Thank you, Captain Sharma. Good afternoon to everybody. I can see audience remaining for this last session, which is very heartening to see. But definitely what I see in the audience is hardcore training and manning personnel. Others have all disappeared. But anyway, that's good. So coming to a question regarding the upskilling part of it, We have seen the advancements taking place in technology throughout the day, and there is no doubt about that, that technology is going at a very fast pace and regulations are not keeping pace with it or not catching up with it. Yeah. Our last revision of STCW was 2010. Now the next one will come about 2026, 27, 28. I don't know when that will come out finally, because the comprehensive revision review has just commenced and it takes normally 3 to 4 years before it can be finalized. So we cannot really keep waiting for STCW to bring about some regulation for upskilling our own seafarers. Because please remember, India is a crewing nation. We supply large number of manpower, woman power now, also to the shipping industry. And we have to be ahead of the curve. So there are two parts to it. Captain Sharma's question was on existing seafarers. So what is the current competence level of existing seafarers as goes for digitization and digitalization?
Small correction. Existing workforce, which means ship and shore.
Okay, sorry. Existing workforce. But I mean, I'll focus on the seafarers and of course the superintendents who are ashore, who are also managing the ships. So they require to be upskilled for sure with the new technologies as they come in. We have seen alternate fuels coming in and they need to be upskilled in that. They need to be trained in that. Newer machinery, which is automated using PLC controllers, SCADA controllers. Vaishak gave a lot of jargon in the morning. But yes, so we need to train them on that aspect, the engineering force. Similarly, the ETOs who are also in the field and who have been mainly dealing with electrical systems need to be brought up to electronics and automation systems. So that's the existing workforce, which needs to be upgraded to the latest requirement. And these latest requirements, we currently know about it. Because if you are talking of the mass levels, level 1 to 4, we could say currently our ships, quite a number of our new vessels are at level 1. And certainly they are quite highly automated and the workforce going on those ships need to be trained in that aspect. So this is the aspect of the training that is required. For example, another area which is very critical is this ballast water treatment system. Again, a training requirement. And these are training requirements we currently know. They are low-hanging fruits and we should grab them. And we should get that training done through our centers in India. The second part comes of the new people who are joining.
I'll come to that later.
Okay,
I'll come to that later. I'm just following up on this existing workforce. What we are saying or what we are hearing is that they need to be upskilled to the requirements of the new technology, the digitalization, and so on. Does it also mean that they must retain their existing skills, or would the old skills anyway not be required? Or what? Would you care to comment on that? Or is it just load on top? Here we are, existing seafarers with existing skills. You can call them old skills. And now there are new skills to be acquired to deal with the technology that's coming in. What happens to the old skills? Are we expecting them to retain or to discard?
Yeah, so when we talk about the old skills, I think we need to differentiate in two parts. One is the underpinning knowledge required. The underpinning knowledge is the principles behind a particular work. If we teach that part only and stop there, that should be good enough. And we go ahead towards the more recent technology requirement or what is the current practice on board a ship so that they are future ready. We need not go into the details of celestial navigation, that signals, etc., which are not being used at all on board a ship. So why should we continue to do that? So yes, in this current STCW revision, one of the key features actually is to delete obsolete, non-required training and competence requirement from the STCW. So that's one of the major topics that will also be taken up now. But certainly, if we cannot just keep filling that bucket, we have to empty out some part and then fill in some new part. Then only people will be able to function well on board a ship.
Yeah.
So that's true what you mentioned.
Thanks for that perspective. I turn to Captain Chizgar, or if I might call you Viraf. You're younger than me, right? Right?
Hope so, sir. But
Don't call
you
me
don't look too old. Sir.
But don't call me uncle or something, all right? All right. You are right, hands-on into the training of seafarers, right? Can you be specific about, let us say, take a rank of second mate? What exactly are the new skills are we talking about that a second mate is required to have? Number one. And ultimately, what are we expecting out of the second mate? To be an operator or a maintainer of equipment, technology on board?
Thank you, sir. So before I could respond to that, can I just have some audience interaction, sir?
Sure.
You know, the whole thing is about mass. Since morning, we've been focusing on mass. So we just need to understand the perspective of the audience here as to when do you think, Captain Debu sir said mass 1 is already here. We're pretty much sure on that. But when it comes to mass degree 2, how many out here have the belief that mass degree 2, that is a vessel which has some manpower on board, but most of the operations are going to be automated. Captain Bajaj spoke about, you know, the Prism Courage, an LNG vessel doing 6,400 nautical miles, fully autonomous. Ocean voyage, but still. And there were benefits, 7% reduction in fuel consumption, 5% in emission. We know emission is driving the industry right now, so definitely emission control, commercials, etc. is going to drive mass. That's a given. But what are the time frames? So I'd just like to ask the audience, how many people believe that mass degree 2 will be there within 5 years majorly? I'm talking about hundreds of vessels operating on mass 2. So Captain Bajaj, right, you know, we are in the minority. We are going to be in the minority.
The only reason being because your requirement is minimum safe manning. That's it. So you need to knock off 10 people, keep minimum safe manning, get an autonomous certificate. That's it. Your way to go.
So we are in the minority, but just something to deviate why this minority is maybe the right way. You know, we are the ones who are saying Earth is round, and the majority is saying Earth is flat. That's our perception. But I just want to deviate slightly towards another industry, automobile industry. Now we all know Mahindra, Tata has this global NCAP performance standard, 5 stars. You bang a Tata Harrier into a wall, you take a Mahindra into a wall, and the damage inside and damage outside, 5 stars. But that's the global NCAP. If you see the Australian NCAP, which came in, and that's tailor-made to the European standards also, they are saying, why test out a vehicle after impact? Why not progressively use technology to avoid that impact? And that is where ADAS came in. A lot of cars in India today also have ADAS, you know, automated systems to assist the driver assistance systems. Now, they are talking about we will grade safety on the fact that you will prevent the accident and not how well you would do in an accident. So that's the Australian NCAP standard, not the global NCAP standard. So the technology is going to come in. We have San Francisco in a country where liability is massive. They throw a banana peel and slip on their own peel and the ship is going to be, you know, penalized legally for it. You know, it happens in the US. Now that country, San Francisco, has a 24/7 driverless cab service. Now imagine in a place where a pedestrian can wipe out a company, they have gone ahead with legislations protecting that cab this thing. So all this scoping exercise for regulatory and everything, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, and a few of us feel it's going to be very fast. And that is where we have to deconstruct what the second mate or any seafarer is right now. Because we are all focusing on the technical skill of the seafarer. how well he will adapt to an ECDIS, how well he will adapt to an ECDIS which is controlled by an autonomous route planning and optimization. But the question is, when you go from degree 1 to degree 2, he is only a bystander. He or she rather will be stepping in only when required. Then there is, of course, degree 3, where they are ashore and are going to be stepping in. So what we need to understand is the technical competence. We've always focused on technical competence of a seafarer. How well he will utilize the tools given him. The future of training has to be beyond technical competence. First, assessing the seafarer's cognitive ability. How he or she is keyed up to interact with that human-machine interface. Are the weak signals recognized? If they are recognized, what is the corrective action to be taken? Now, most of this, let's say BRM also, we are focusing on an interaction between 4 team players and the equipment given there. But tomorrow, this seafarer may have to rely on somebody sitting ashore who he or she have never met. Now, how well does the seafarer perform in these circumstances? What is the trust issues? So the modern seafarer's needs are not just going to be technical training. It's going to be a lot of soft skill training, and not soft skill interacting on a wheelhouse team of 4. It's going to be across human-machine interface. It's going to be cognitive ability, character traits. You're going to have more and more psychologists coming in, more and more specialists. How the seafarer on board reacts with the seafarer, new definition seafarer in the remote station. How well is the trust being found in the absence of a team? Right now, engine room alarm, 4 people go down. You have a team which you have had dinner with. This is a person you've never met before. It's just a voice, it's an ID. So that is the challenge which training institutes are now going to happen beyond, because we've always been technical-oriented training.
Sure. Great, thanks. But the second part of my question, if you can focus a little bit.
Yes.
Do you expect the second mate to be trained as an operator of equipment, technology, or also a maintainer? In other words, should he be capable of troubleshooting? Should he have background knowledge of how PLC and SCADA works? Is that necessary?
So to a reducing extent, I would say, because we are moving closer to the aviation industry. A lot of technology coming today is simply not. A classic example is electronic engine. And we have a lot of people here from the Prime Serve Academies, tie-up here from what, Captain Debusser's team is here. And you would realize that a ME engine today, there's very little that the onboard team can repair. It's just plug out and plug in again. And now we also have the ability, as I think one of the previous speakers, I'm sorry, I forgot whom, but the ability of the software getting fixed remotely. Right now, VSAT is 2 Mbps. So the patches, as we speak, we are trying to fix an ECDIS remotely, but we are working with 2 Mbps speed. Marlink is tied up with Starlink, that's 250 Mbps speed. So the solutions are digital and they will be available from shore. So I don't think it's so concerning about the adaptation of the current seafarer, who's got adequate skills. We just have to have this balance between the current seafarer and Mr. Lars spoke about, generation Alpha and generation Zeta. Now, this generation has excellent skills on that. Of course, they have the problem. They may consider it gamification. The PUBG reset button. They're so used to reset. But the current seafarer is in the best position. India is in the best position for this transition. And I don't think with the support which we can give from a IT developed nation like us, 66% of our population of 1.4 is employable. And that support can come in from, as Mr. Lars said, from somebody who doesn't have legs, somebody whose spouse doesn't have legs and had to quit shipping. Seafarers, we know as a country that ladies have traditionally stayed away from this role because of spending 6 months out at sea. Now that lady seafarer can be on a 9 to 6 job. So we have immense pool and immense talent, and it will be a smooth transition provided the stakeholders act now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Before we proceed into the new category of employees as we talked, just one comment on Mr. Chavan's mention this morning about ship data coming ashore. If you remember, he said now with the technology of communication and so on, a lot of data from the ship, machinery, equipment is coming to the shore office. My question is to people in the shore office, obviously Captain Basin as well as Captain Panda, both from the admin side. Would decision-making also shift ashore? And if so, people who are currently sitting in shore offices, do they need any skilling up?
Sir, before this mass and autonomous and all those things we are talking about, I don't know when they come into force, but currently, with the humans on board, seafarers on board, a lot of decision making has already gone ashore, sir. We already have tools, technology to monitor the ship's engine, their performances, their weather routing, the AIS, other things are already in hand, and actually a lot of decision making is already ashore. When the transition happens, I would little bit speak when Viraf and Gaurav were talking. I would say, though it was a very passionate thing that it will come out within few years, this transition, I would like to say, hold on. Let STCW come first. We don't have anything in hand. It is all in the discussion mode, in the deliberation mode. It is just being spoken about. What autonomous ships we have is only approved by local flag state, local administration. There's nothing as such, and Captain Debu is here, we were discussing this. There's no STCW has come into force. So let's wait for that. That might take, sir.
Sure. But yeah, just to qualify, let's keep the mass level 1, 2, 3 a little bit on the side and just talk about a digitalized organization, And if they are going to be taking decisions on shore side, the personnel currently manning the shore positions, if they would need any kind of upskilling. Captain Panda.
Interesting. Why I'm saying, because we are passing through a very mixed period. Because till date, we have been complying with or living with the compliance culture, minimum standards of training, minimum safe manning standards. They always prescribe minimum that is to be required. That's why we see many countries in the white list. Being a competent person of IMO, having seen so many documents of different countries, I say that those days are over. You have to have a paradigm shift in thinking where from compliance culture we have to move into competence culture. Because the GHG requirements have put enormous weight on everyone related to shipping. Be it EEXI or be it CII, every aspect of ship is being monitored from shore so that your ratings go up and the ship is engaged economically. Therefore, per se, we can't say that it is the responsibility of shore to guide people on ship or vice versa. It has to be a combined effort. Therefore, the competence will be required on either side. Now, how that competence will be imparted to the seafarers working on ship is left to individual companies because it has got direct relevance to its economical employability. The administration as such will continue with the minimum standard. And minimum standard, I'm afraid, may not be good enough in the coming days. You have to improve competence to meet the challenging environment that will be coming up pretty soon with EXI with CII and with digitalization coming into fore. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. But let me pick up on that. When ISM code came, we had a new player in the shore office, the name DPA, the designated person ashore. In initial days, reading the ISM code and its requirements, it was quite okay to appoint the secretary of the general manager as the DPA because he has a direct line, direct connection to the top management, and that was the only requirement. And it was some years later that IMO came out with circulars, what is a DPA supposed to be, training, background, experience, or all of that. And now that's, that kind of is sorted, fine. But I still see superintendents, vessel managers, and responsible people on shore without seafaring background. In our own company, Williamson, we have naval architects who are sitting as, in some manner they've had exposure to shipping, but not seafaring, not master mariner, not class 1 MEO. And if these are the type of people who will eventually take shoreside decisions, what do you think of upskilling required for them? Would administration insist, some kind of base level skills?
Yeah, I think taking into fact that I'm just looking at, hoping that in another, say, 20 years or 25 years, we will have ATC kind of operators operating ships. Obviously, they must have the domain knowledge so that the basic things can be taken care. Certainly, I hope, along with sailing staff, the new STCW under consideration also has a section wherein some qualification, some experience, or some standards are set forth for these new operators who will be working from shore and guiding the vessel.
Yeah, good. Absolutely, makes sense. वो डिजिटलाइजेशन में नहीं है.
They are the people who are controlling the people who are on board the ship. They are giving the certifications. So what about their upskilling?
Theoretically speaking, there is a prescribed course, and in accordance with ACS course which we have done, they are supposed to undergo. And so far as I said, that we love to go by minimum requirement. There hasn't been any amendment to it. The moment the amendments will come, obviously they will be also required to undergo the course.
Yeah.
At this stage, it is not there.
Yeah, it's a good point, Captain Mainkar. I hope it will get due attention as we go ahead. Let me now switch to the so-called new entrants who are going to enter the maritime career, maritime field, whether on shore, whether on ship. And then I can't help but recalling Lars's mention of Generation Alpha, 18-year-olds, those who have done in India class 12 when they're looking for a sea career. What skills are they coming with? We can imagine they're highly digital literate, so to say. My 3-year-old granddaughter talks to Google and says, okay, Google, play so-and-so song on Spotify. I mean, 3-year-old, come on. And she can't speak so well, so okay, Google is in a big fix because they can't understand what the hell is being spoken. But yeah, that's the way the generation is coming up, When it comes to recruiting people at that young level into the maritime field, do we need to downskill? There's no upskilling yet, but do we need to downskill? Do we need to bring them down to, some of the basics, old skills that we talked about? Captain Debu.
Actually we see even currently when the young third mate comes on board, he is much better in operating the ECDIS than the master. So we can see that definitely Generation Alpha, which will be coming in, will be even more computer savvy. So they have a head start on digitization, let's say. Yeah? But yes, then once they come on board a ship, they will need to marry the IT and the OT layers, as Vaishak was saying, and be able to operate the equipment using the digital systems. But yes, coming to the question of new entrants now. What will the new entrants do once they come in? At this current level, let's say a cadet joining today in our Pre-C Academy is still in that old system. Will he be able to take care of the upgradations that will happen in 5 years' time in the systems? Because he has not been actually upskilled or is not coming from the right background. So firstly, I would think that let us see what is our intake background that we would like to take in future. Would we like to take them from some electronics background? Will that be helpful? Would we take somebody in who has done a degree course in electronics or computer science rather than taking him at 12th standard level? That could be also a thought, because they would then have an upper hand in the systems that will be there on board a ship. Currently, yes, at least the engineering and the electrical side that we take in are already coming in more or less at a graduate level when we talk about the GME batch. So you can take into account that we will focus these engineers and the ETOs that are being taken in have got some sort of mechatronics, electronics, automation type of background that they come in along with the mechanical part. So they will be better suited on board a ship, because rightly mentioned by Lars also in the morning that some of them after 5 years, when that level 2 mass vessels comes in play, they would be able to shift ashore in the remote centers and be able to operate, because now they have got background knowledge of a ship combined with a good IT and automation experience. They will be able to operate that vessels much better. In fact, even today, when we have our Fleet Performance Center in Anglo-Eastern office, who are the people who are manning that center? Our top layer is, yes, one chief engineer and one master, with having done an additional training in IT systems. But at the lower level, we are having second mates, we are having fourth engineers, we are having some specialist IT personnel who have not been to sea. But yes, maybe they were trained in the nautical science course and have directly come in. So these are the people who are coming in right now into the shore-based remote centers. So I feel at our intake level, we might need to rethink how we do the selection process on that. Second part of the whole thing is related to our pre-C training. Can we change our curriculum in pre-C training? And we have a 4-year course. 3-year BSc Nautical Science, 4-year Marine Engineering course. Can we add in all the new requirements in that course at least? Because 4 years is a long time. You can train them up pretty well in these systems and even be focused more on marine systems and not just talk about general electronic systems ashore, but be more focused in that training. So then definitely it will assist them when they go on board a ship. So we can have a dual-pronged approach towards this aspect. One more thing I think mentioned was that we need to have a more collaborative approach, because slowly and steadily you will see that the crew on board, number of crew on board will shrink. Right now maybe they are 16, 17, tomorrow they may be 10, day after they may be 5 on board a ship. So there is much more collaboration required, much more removing the boundaries between deck, engine and electrical side, and there will be a collaborative approach. Great requirement of soft skills training is required. Leadership, teamwork and soft skill approach so that they can collaborate much better. So these are areas that we need to look at in our pre-C training and be able to bring them up to the right level. Because pre-C and all doesn't require STCW. STCW only starts from the time that they are certificated officers. So here is where we could score above. Thank you.
Yeah, good point. I'll come back to the actual training content and delivery in a while. At this moment, we are talking about intake. What is the intake level that we want? And you are telling, which I partly agree, is that PCM is gone. You got to go above PCM. Maybe at least even if it is class 12, you need a guy to have done, computers as a main subject or something like that.
Some vocational.
Yeah, some vocational. Or maybe go directly into the B.Tech area and see that the person has adequate electronical or, computerized knowledge and stuff like that. And if that is the case at the intake level, whether ship or shore, would that also require organizational changes? When an organization is set up, typical organization chart, you have these departments and technical managers and so on. Would we find a place for, the red and blue guys, what was mentioned by Captain Gaurav Bajaj? Would they have, the red guys particularly, and it's interesting you put the guys in red. Red is danger, So blue is okay, we are seafaring, sea is blue and all that. But would the red guys feature in the organization chart in positions of importance as given to, seafaring or should I say operational people? Captain Basin. Organization chart. Where do you place IT professionals?
Sir, actually IT is going to be the future. I can confidently say this. Already this morning, Shaikh was talking, he's from the electronics background, electrical thing. And we are seeing lately more and more ETOs coming ashore, which are actually working as a senior superior level. With our Artiflex engine, with our ME engine, the latest engine, they are hands-on, sharp, as well as the new generation. Captain Dobu spoke about the new people which are coming, they are very IT savvy, very much IT savvy. So I see a lots and lots contribution by them. Rather, I would also say, when this transition will take place, the seafarers will be getting a job ashore, they are most ideal. I think you mentioned that the people who have got a sea experience and with the IT knowledge, they are more suited for immediate transition jobs, till a specific code or special regulations are laid down.
Yeah, what I meant by organizational changes is, to be specific, would the CTO, Chief Technical Officer of a company, be placed at a higher level of importance than the COO, the Chief Operations Officer? What do you say?
So that I would say will be a commercial decision by your owner. I can't answer that.
Okay, I'll offer you a cup of tea, and there are tea leaves that you stir, and you can see the future.
Captain Sharma,
Yeah.
you mentioned about the DPA having come in.
Yes.
Few years back, we had the CIO come in. Into our
CIO,
company.
yeah, you're right. Good
Chief
point.
Information Officer. And certainly he has been pegged at the same level as the CEO. I wouldn't say higher or lower, but at the same level. So that's the transformation that has happened. And definitely a number of IT personnel or experts have joined into the company.
Well, I'm maybe taking a bit of liberty here, but I asked Captain Panda who's the most important, level person in a government organization, and would that be the vigilance guy, the CVO?
Yeah, okay. I'm going by the thumb rule of business. The man who is responsible for revenue maximizing, then the man who is responsible for cost minimizing takes the cake. So one who maximizes the revenue will be obviously the boss. So he will call the shots on the person who is reducing the cost.
Interesting. Conventional wisdom is that the person who controls the money, CFO, is the most important one. Yeah, well, we are far away from that position. So, yeah, please.
So since the CTO was brought up, there's a definite issue here as to what a CTO does in these organizations. And Captain Bajaj was very kind enough to summarize 4 very key trials which have happened en masse. But there was a 5th one which it doesn't suit that slide, and he's aware of it, but he had not put in. In 2017, there was a 8,400 odd TEU vessel from Cyprus to Djibouti, which was under mass level degree 3, I would put it in, not for the correct reasons. It got cyber hijacked. There were actually pirates who were controlling that vessel in 2017 for 10 hours. The vessel was 8,500 TEU vessel. They were lucky enough to get IT professionals on board to de-link the IT systems. Now, mind you, this is a conventional vessel, was never designed for mass, and it still could be controlled. Now, that is where we need to understand the difference between IT and operational technology, which is on the ship. Now, the CTOs right now in the office are all focused on IT. We had a phishing scam where we paid a very large amount of money to somebody we thought who was a vendor. And now we learned our lesson, and we've got an AI-driven cybersecurity this thing. So the CTO is important, but what is to be understood, his or her skills are on IT systems. It takes care of the shore-based stuff, the PMS, the QMS. The problem is the ships need a OT specialist, operational technology. The guy who's going to make sure that the CPP, which has been controlled by, we spoke about edge computing, is not taken over by IoT, and the CPP is now in a different pitch with the same RPM. Nobody realizes it. So ultimately, there has to be a seafarer background influence on the technology. However important the CTO today is, he or she is only considering IT. We will need seafarers on the OT aspect. And that is where, people like Mr. Chauhan, he demonstrated why a seafarer background with the inclination for technology is extremely important in the years to come.
Great, thanks. Very, very pertinent point. Thanks, Viraf. Let's now move into the actual training aspect. So we are taking for granted here that technology is coming, is already there. More new technology is coming. And in the process of digitalization, the technology that is employed or provided for by the various manufacturers, various developers, will it go the EGDIS way? Or will there be some form of standardization that we can expect? In other words, you go on board, there's an EGDIS, there are 20 manufacturers, then you got to know exactly, what EGDIS you are dealing with, you have to train on that, and, there is no standardization, and that's the bane of shipping industry anyhow, at least as far as shipboard equipment goes. So the new technology that we are looking at, whether it is ballast water systems or whether it is any other IoT, etc. related, would you expect any kind of standardization to come in? Captain Panda, what do you think on this? Or would it be, fair game to any manufacturer, whoever sells the cheapest equipment, and then the question would go to Captain Bhasin, as a ship owner, who would you select as your provider?
I think we are at a very early stage so far as standardization is concerned. I understand from the previous session that a code is being made, and as I discussed, probably some performance standards will be made. So like any other equipment that we had seen in the past, as long as it meets the performance standards, radar we have seen many, EGDIS we have seen many, but the performance standards are there. So I reckon it's too early to guess. I'm not a technical wizard on that subject, but I presume any manufacturer must meet certain performance standards and certain operational standards. And accordingly, like what had happened in EGDIS, different type, you have to train as per that. So I don't think there will be one common set of training, but basic training will be same, and thereafter there will be some addendum for that particular type of setup.
Right. Right, thanks. So possibly, again, a variety of display systems, variety of control systems, although may all be complying with the performance standard, I agree. But that doesn't make it easy for the operator, isn't it? What do you say, Captain Basin? Any kind of
Yes, sir.
standardization from company's angle?
Yes, sir. First of all, the question is actually very, very good. At the same time, very, very difficult. You know, you're asking something about the standardization. I doubt it will come. It is my personal take, but I am not the STCW, I am not the IMO, I am not the person who regulates the thing. It's a very, very difficult thing, sir. But let's see. Right now, we do not have something like remote operation, remote thing, or that we are talking about. The mass A, mass 2, mass 3, we don't know. It's all been discussion process. So let's see how it will take, but a bit difficult.
Thanks. We do see trends. We see a company, when it engages a, say, EGDIS supplier, then they would like to stick to that supplier for all their ships. So all their staff, whichever ship they go on, they are familiar with that particular EGDIS set and operations and so on. Of course, for a company that's doing this kind of, or adopting this kind of strategy is also placing itself in some kind of risk, in the sense that they are now dependent on one supplier. And if something goes wrong, then the cost of change is going to be terrific, and business risk from the CFO angle, he's not going to be too happy about it. Nevertheless, there was mention of airline industry in the morning. Airline industry is heavily standardized, and the pilot sits on a 747, or this one or that one is practically doing the same thing, exactly where the controls are and what are the operational capabilities, etc. I don't think that ever is going to come to shipping. What do you say, Captain Debu?
Even the airline, when you say it's standardized, it's because we have only few players in the market in airlines, Boeing, Airbus, and maybe 2, 3. Yeah. That is the reason it is standardized. But otherwise, even a pilot has to train himself or herself on each individual aircraft, 747 sure. And 777, etc., differently. So in the shipping, as Captain Panda mentioned, performance standards will come. The electronic standards by which it is tested by the EEC standard, that will come. But I don't think the whole features of an EGDIS as we see it will become ever standardized, because that will kill innovation, and I don't think the industry wants the innovation to be killed.
Right. Great. Good point.
I have just guesstimating. We had very generic standards for DP1, DP2, DP3, and DP4 for OSVs. I have been given to understand similar generic standards will be there for these vessels.
Okay, right. Good. So as far as onboard is concerned, that's a major concern for us. It's shoreside digitalization systems in the shore offices may be a lesser concern, because a person is, performing on those or operating on those on a longer period. It's only ships that you keep on changing and you find new systems, then you have to be competent with those. Let me sort of relate it to that on the training angle, the upskilling part of it. We have seen some evidence, again, I refer to EGDIS and before that other things as well. Would it be industry-driven or regulator-driven? Viraf, would the training requirements, upskilling requirements be industry-driven or regulator-driven? Do we wait for IMO, STCW on one side of it, or any flag state, etc., or even classification society? These are all regulators. So would they be driving the training requirements, or would it be the industry itself, the ship owners, operators,
So wishful thinking, it has to be industry-driven. A classic example is, so I recollect clearly that Captain Debu sir was part of the HTW committee in February 2017 and 18. And during that meeting, they finally got changed IMO 1.07, which is the standards for model course for ROC, ARPA and everything. And we finally caught up to the training standard when the performance standard, the technical performance standard of the radar was amended in 2004. Imagine 13 years after, and there were machines which were being sold prior to 2004 to that standard. So if we are going to wait for regulatory or administration to this thing, sadly, we will not, cope up. The problem with EGDIS was also the same. It was an equipment which was a recipe for bhelpuri. Now it has progressed to Chinese bhel. So 82 is when JRC brought the ECS commercially available. And for 82 to the next 30 years, everybody's opinion was sought and valued. Now in mass, hopefully that will not happen because there are, as Sir said, there are very niche and limited players, whether it's Kongsberg, Rolls-Royce, this thing. So the opinions of too many people, all and sundry, hopefully will not come in. And mass will be a little better standardized than it was in EGDIS, but it is up to the industry. Not because, so you did mention about the stalls, but I'll bring in this thing. But essentially, what is a cloud simulator? It's not administrative, clearly defined by administration, but it's approved. It came in, it got an entry thanks to COVID. Essentially, isn't it a small step towards remote operation of a vessel? Today, we are remotely operating using the cloud, using person's access in a cloud in his or her own environment, home environment, and controlling a bridge simulator. Tomorrow, that will evolve to controlling a bridge. Simulator is out. He or she will now be controlling a bridge. So it is up to the industry to innovate, to walk ahead. And that is the reason why people must have the belief that mass is going to come in sooner than later. When the correct stakeholders invest in mass, we just have to get Amazon's attention. The man has 540,000 robots working for him, Jeff Bezos. The minute, and it's tilting. Now, mostly he will have more robots working than human beings. He's automating everything in his chain. It's a matter of time that his trucks and everything are almost auto. He's going to focus on the maritime segment. Now, that kind of an investor comes. Elon Musk gets this technology. The existing technology for ADAS, for cars and everything. Why is LIDAR famous today? Radar is kind of old school. LIDAR is famous. LIDAR is famous because autonomous cars are using LIDAR. Mass is using LIDAR. A lot of these ships. So the investment will drive and the industry has to move with this wave. We can't wait for regulators to bring it in.
Yeah, I would think that would be the general consensus. Industry drives. But history tells us that when regulators do catch up and then bring out regulations, then all these people who did EGDIS course of 3 days or 4 days, company sponsored, you have to go through another EGDIS course just to get a piece of paper. So, Captain Panda, how can we avoid this? Yes, quite right.
Let me, here the scenario is a little different. Allow me some time to explain why it may not be administration driven. First of all, to get into stage 1 or stage 2 or stage 3 or stage 4 of autonomous setup, as I see, it will take some time. It will happen, but it is going to take quite some time because it is yet to be formalized. Then it has to be seen in its economical aspects, because all of a sudden, today what we see, the EXI and CII, which has been deliberated for the last 3 years, they have come into force, and as per the latest, 90% of the VLCCs will not be meeting the CII requirement. Are we heading to that stage? Many countries I've been a part of deliberations. Many countries have flatly said they cannot allow a vessel to come to their waters unless it is manned properly. So there are issues. So it will develop sector by sector, as I say. It may happen in EU first, thereafter going to Far East, probably Japan, Korea, who have already progressed. So therefore, I don't think there will be a uniform standard by IMO, whether for training or whether technical standards, etc., will be brought through a convention as such, or will be brought through a mandatory process. It will remain as an advisory, and as we go along, depending upon adoption of such technology and depending upon improvement of the socio-economic conditions of the other countries, because airline trading was different. And here, imagine a ship, and partially autonomous ship carrying cargo from Japan all the way to the European continent. Here you have EXI, CII breathing on your neck, that you must go or take the shortest route so that your carbon CII rating is maintained. So obviously you will take the shortest possible path, and there is another country which does not allow you under the right of innocent passage or something. So there will be conflicting one. It will be adopted sector-wise as per adoption. Slowly, formulation of policies and mandatory application will come.
Sure, thanks. Well, let's hope your words come true, because we don't want to repeat, what has happened in the past, and people have to kind of obviously suffer from that. I come to my last point. Yes, Nitin. Quick, double quick. Yeah.
We say that in Mars, the ship is going to be not manned at all. It is going to be monitored, executed, whatever implementation to be done by somebody is going to be ashore. Obviously, that person is going to be ashore when he's implementing it and doing something about it. He should have the necessary expertise to take the vessel from point A to point B, whatever be that point A and point B. And also intervene when there is a requirement because of some emergency arising. Now, can this person be just any person? I have a tremendous IT knowledge. Can I be the in charge and monitoring it, or should I also have the domain expertise of that particular ship in terms of navigation, equipment, machinery, etc.? What is the requirement going to be? Only IT, or I require both? Or do we require a team? And if it is so, does that team or that individual needs to be certified? And if it is to be certified, can a company take the responsibility, or is it going to be the flag or the administration who takes the responsibility?
Okay. Let me clarify. I think I had said,
In 2 minutes.
okay, I had said that no matter what international legislations come, unless the same is brought into the local regulation, the local regulations prevail. You may have brought in, just for example, you may have brought in Rotterdam rules, Hamburg rules, etc., but we still go on our coast under COGSA 1927 as amended in 72-75 now. So coming to this issue, if the local state mentions that no remote control vessel shall proceed on their coast unless permission is taken, such autonomous ships cannot come. Secondly, whosoever is in charge of the operation of the vessel, there has to be a nominal head. You can't run an entity without a head as such. Somebody has to be responsible. And as I said before, he must have domain expertise to run a mass.
Yeah, sure.
Have I answered your question?
Captain Mainkar, the mass code is not yet out. Once the mass code comes out, all this will be defined. No, we are jumping the gun. These things will be defined. Where is the legal? And I think that's the reason why the mass code is getting delayed, because of basically the legal definition, the legal requirements.
Yeah,
So I think
thanks.
even today also, when an emergency is happening on any of our ships, we have an emergency room in our office in Hong Kong. And the top people are called, and until that emergency is taken care of, they are all active, trying to make sure that the emergency doesn't escalate and it's mitigated as fast as possible. So similarly, whenever such a thing will happen, a domain expert, a senior guy will be called to that remote center to take care of that issue. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Captain
very
Deb-
simple.
Captain Dubey,
And the
but
mass
quickly,
code has
please,
to
quickly.
come into effect in law.
In brief.
Yeah. I will just quickly crystallize my thoughts, what I've been hearing from morning. Based on the observations of what I've been making. The whole question is that when a person working on the ship, if he is made to work ashore as ship operator, I'm talking about stage 3, stage 4 of the mass, when there is no job for the officers and engineers on board. So let us equip ourselves in such a way so that as far as ship mining is being done by people on board, we are doing it. When it is not necessary, we have to go back ashore. As a ship operator, we should be equipped for that.
Sure.
So the whole scenario is to be like, if a person, right now, whosoever is on board, he is doing it. They're all equipped, no problem. When he goes ashore, is he able to do that? Naturally, he has to have the domain knowledge, whether he's an engineer or an officer, and including the software and information technology knowledge. These are the factors which we must equip ourselves. So there are two categories of it. One is existing, one is the new entrant for merchant navy. Existing ones, whatever domain technology they need, as a chief engineer, as a master, a chief officer, second engineer, we have that. Information technology and software knowledge, a course has to be done by them to be well equipped with that so that they can sit ashore and be as a ship operator remotely. For existing, this should be the idea. For new entrant, outside that, a polyvalent course, which was being advised earlier, which was going on in DMET, where they have the domain knowledge of deck and engine. Along with that, they should add up software and information technology in the 4-year course. So that when they come out, if they go on the ship, they will man the ship. If no more required, due to stage 3 and stage 4, they will go ashore and they will be as a ship operator. That's what my knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for very clear-cut, crystallized views. Thank you. And looking at the time and the signal that I've already got, one last point, Captain Debu, Anglo-Eastern Maritime Academy, do they have a lake in their premises? A lake or a pond or a river nearby?
Yeah. Everything is there because it's part of the DG requirements.
A lake? I didn't know lake is a requirement.
Yes.
Water body.
Water body, drilling machine, everything is a requirement.
The only institute I know that has a lake is TMI, and that actually have some kind of a lake. What I'm pointing to is the kind of training that we saw in a video and in some visuals shown by Lars this morning at Warsash. Can that be replicated here in India? What is the scope? What are the possibilities of collaboration? Any thoughts on that? Can we get to that level?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Just say again.
Reman has a lake? I don't think so. Coastline is not their own. It's public. It's a public coastline. Okay, fine, whichever way. Wherever there is access to water body of the type that you need for the specific training on systems which Raj explained in the morning, what do you think are the chances, and can we replicate that here in this part of the world?
Yeah, certainly. I think what Lars mentioned in the morning, using the water body and the manned models and converting them to a remote operation, this type of training could be, in a collaboration done with, universities in Europe, etc.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good step that we could take as institutions in India to collaborate with, with WhatsApp or any others.
We'll have to talk to your CFO about that, okay?
That-
Because it's going to be huge money. So, I mean, are people ready to invest, or they would look for some kind of viability gap funding? That's going to be pretty much the stumbling block, don't you think? Captain Basin, MSC, have they got the funds? Yeah.
Sir, why you always ask difficult questions to me? Sir, if the need is there, definitely any good company will spend on it. And I'm sure Captain Debu Institute will also spend on it. Right now, I know that manned model ship requirement, lake, the particular size, the size of that manned model ship is quite huge. It's not small. The existing institutes that we know of, they do not have that infrastructure, sir. Because they have a swimming pool, or they have a kind of a arrangement with some water bodies. So let's see where the future takes, but I think eventually it will come to India. We will have it.
Sure.
We can always make the pool bigger.
Let's be
It's
hopeful.
a very easy one.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And we look forward to that. And history tells us that it is corporates that bring training at a higher level to the country. I go back to 1983, first tanker safety course. Who sponsored that? First tanker safety course in India. I did it myself. Actually, I did the second one. It was BP's Mobile. Yeah. And they set up a classroom in the LBS college, I think 6th floor, you might know. And from there it goes. So there has to be corporate involvement. And what is MASA, FOSMA, MMERT? What are these? This is all history tells us, this contribution from the industry to bring that in. It's 5:30 exactly on my clock. Time to wind up. Sorry, sir. Personally, one-to-one, you can catch all of them. They are not going somewhere. But thank you very much to the panel. Thank you very much to the audience. The doors are now open, but don't step away just yet. Please let us have the honor of presenting our mementos to our panelists. Captain Almeida, over to you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we've come to the end of the seminar, and now we have the wonderful task of giving away some mementos to our panelists. Before that, I'd like to call Captain Halbe, Captain Bhandarkar, and Captain Rangnikar, and Karanjikar. Please come up on the stage. Deputy Master, Captain Kaustubh Pradhan, please join us. Okay, we'd like first of all to give a memento to Captain Debu. Captain Halbe, would you do us the honors, please? A small token to Captain Basin, presented by Captain Bhandarkar. Vivek's not in? Okay. Captain Rangnikar, will you do that, please? A token of gratitude to Captain Viraf, handed over by Karanjikar. I'd like our moderator, Captain Yankee, to give away a bouquet to Captain Panda. We got orchids for Captain Pandey. A bouquet. And now we'd like to give away a memento to Captain Sharma, which will be handed over by Deputy Master, Captain Pradhan. Well, a good group photo. We've got a nice, large group now on the stage. Thank you, gentlemen. Please gather for a photograph, after which I'd like to call Captain Kamal Chadda to present a vote of thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated till the vote of thanks. And I also request all of you to fill up the feedback forms and leave them at the reception desk. Thank you, gentlemen. Captain Kamal Chadda.
Good evening, friends. There's been a lot of talk on the high-tech world that we have arrived in, and a lot of history as well on where we came from. So I'll quickly tell you that we need to understand piracy has also gone very modern, but piracy was not like this at one time. And the very first ship on which I saw piracy, the pirates came on board with just a band on their head, their faces covered, and barely any clothes on their body. So this pirate has only a knife in his hand, nothing high-tech there. He goes around to every cabin looking for something that he can, threaten you for and take away. Finally, he came on the bridge. He had only managed to get a watch from a cadet. So he got so mad that he threw the watch at the cadet and said, I don't want this also. And he went away. So that was piracy some 30 years back. We come a long way, just like everything else. So I thought we should know the history of piracy as well. We are at the end of a very fruitful day, lots of knowledge, info on a very contemporary and exciting topic. And I have been given the onus of delivering this vote of thanks. First of all, I must thank the person who selected the dishes on the menu. Very fine food indeed. And who selected it? Albe? Where are you? Okay, Albe Zakaria. He's not here? Okay, maybe. He's gone. Next, I must thank the team that put this event together. They've all worked very hard for more than a couple of months. Start with Captain Pradhan, Captain Halbe, Captain Almeida, Albe Zakaria. Yes, please. Thank you. Nice to cheer them. I'd like to thank those who, during question time, asked the questions. I'm always amazed at those who have minds that really push their thoughts forward, often in fresh directions. I myself can never think of a question, so you can imagine my mind is not going anywhere. I'd like to request all the speakers, panelists, and moderators to please stand. Please stand. Thank you. Round of applause for all of them, please, and thank you so much. My gratefulness on behalf of CMMI members and CMMI office bearers to all of you who have certainly spent many hours preparing to deliver your knowledge, and your efforts and time spent with us are much appreciated. CMMI staff Sudhir Palkar, our respected CEO, Captain Sasi Kumar, and other staff of CMMI, a big thank you to all of you. A very big thank you to our Director General Designate, Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, IAS, for taking time out to grace this seminar even before moving into his chair at the Directorate. Really very, very deserving of our gratefulness. Our sincere gratefulness to our sponsors whose generosity made this event possible. I must call out the sponsors' names. We have our platinum sponsor, Fleet Management, ARI, gold sponsors, HSBC, IRS. Yes, please keep sharing. That's where the money came from. Our silver sponsor, Masa and Vedam Design. Associate sponsors, MSc, HIMT College, FOSMA, C-SPAN, FSUI, Anglo Eastern, Tomini Shipping, Danacom, MUI, Station Satcom, and Marex Media. Thanks to all of you, friends, who are still here in the audience, at the end of the day. You spend the entire day with us. That's really good. And this is barely 50% of what we had at lunchtime. So thank you so much for staying back. Thanks to the staff and chef of the Lalit Hotel, print and electronic media, stage, sound and light, Paravision, and all others who have worked silently yet tirelessly to make this seminar happen. I wish good health to our CMMI master, who unfortunately hasn't been able to make it. My apologies if I missed anyone. Have a wonderful evening. This is Kamal Chadda signing off. Thank you. Friends, before you leave, there's high tea out there. Please partake of it, and it will be an honor to have you all stay with us for these extra few minutes and enjoy the high tea. Thank you.